What's up, Team Tackle? This is Coach Matt. Welcome to today's edition of Morning Action. First off, big thank you to everyone who joined us for the 7-Step Guide to Trading webinar last night. It was an amazing show, had a tremendous amount of fun, taught a tremendous amount about the 7-Step. And if you missed it and want to catch the replay, you can head over to the live events page where you registered. And if you hit watch the replays, you can see the 7-Step Guide to Trading webinar we just got through. So hopefully you enjoy it as well. The live session was absolutely fantastic. Now on to today's top stories, and we got some major stories in the market here today. We got a major court ruling striking down Trump's emergency tariffs. We got Nvidia's blowout data center revenue kind of dampened by the Chinese restrictions, OPEC preparing for a supply shift, SALESFORCE delivering a clean beat, and ELF, well, they're expanding with $1 billion acquisition. Let's get right into it, and let's talk about the market here today. The two stories in the market, I think, are head and shoulders above everything else that anybody is talking about in the market today. Is story number one and story number two. Story number one is about the tariffs. And when you're looking at the tariffs, yesterday, an international court ruled that Trump's sweeping emergency tariffs violated constitutional limits. That means that tariffs are being halted on duties out of Canada, Mexico, some out of China, and the ruling most likely will be going through the court system as the Trump administration does vow to appeal the court ruling. And it does look like this will eventually end up in the Supreme Court. Now, obviously, the market bulls took this story and ran with it when it did hit the wire last night. And when you are looking at the market from a technical perspective, you can kind of see a little bit of celebration when the two stories came out here. First, you had tariffs. Then you had the Nvidia story. And boom, boom, boom. Market up, 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 up. But what we did not see is the continuation of the follow through here. What you saw on the initial move was a very strong intraday move on some positive headlines. But when you come back out to the daily chart, what did the market do? Kind of ran into resistance, tried to break out of resistance, not ready for prime time, and came right back down. Well, one of the reasons why the market maybe cooled off a little bit on the overnight action is when you look at the headline of the tariffs and you look at the totality of what is actually transpiring, there's mixed data here. First and foremost, the court didn't strike down every single degree of tariff. The court struck down broad-based tariffs on the Emergency Authorization Act and basically stated that Trump, the presidency, needs to act through Congress. And so basically, that was the emergency tariffs, which were the universal reciprocal tariffs that were announced on Liberation Day. Targeted tariffs still remain in place. Section 301 tariffs on China, for example, they still remain in place. Section 232 on steel, they still remain in place. And so it's not one of those situations where zero tariffs. It's one of those situations where we're going to see this go through the courts. The courts will obviously have something to say about this. And there are some degree of workarounds. Now, it's going to be interesting to see what the appetite is moving forward into the future regarding tariffs. In my estimation, there's going to be a lot of tremendous amount of ink spilled and conversations to be had. But this does seem to be like another alleviation event that has been the case over the course of the last month in the market, as you've been seeing this market kind of build into this short-term bullish uptrend. This is going to be an ongoing story. Obviously, it's major news. We're going to be talking about it in detail with the pros at Tackle Trading today. So sign up for a free trial. Come be a pro. Great time to do it, by the way. We are going through our holiday sales season at Tackle Trading right now. Let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about story number two, and that is all about Nvidia here today. When you are looking at Nvidia here today, obviously the major earnings report coming out, and there was a lot of people, including yours truly, kind of waiting on pins and needles for this report to drop this week, including that all-important conference call. And Nvidia reported huge data center growth, but they did miss on EPS. And I do want to bring in the context for their EPS miss, because when you look at the EPS side of the equation, adjusted was a beat that came in at 93 versus 90 cents. But on the normal EPS without adjusted, it came in slightly underneath the expectation of 85 cents, came in at 81 cents. Well, over the course of the last couple of years, ever since the super cycle began, you've dealt with nothing besides beats on the EPS side of the equation. In fact, the average beat over the course of the super cycle is right around 11%. You take into account kind of the last 4 quarters, and the average is right around 7.5%. Well, you're dealing with a little bit of a miss here. And on the guidance side of the equation, what have we seen guidance do since the super cycle? 53% up, 26, 12, 9, 5, 2, 1, 1. Well, guidance was mixed here at best. I think you can call it mixed. And so on the raw numbers, I want to be very clear. Nvidia had a great quarter. They had a great quarter. Nvidia doesn't get judged by the standards of the entire market. Oftentimes it gets judged by its own standards, which are extremely elevated. Well, they had a great quarter. By Nvidia standards, I would say they didn't have a great quarter. By anybody else's standards, this is an A minus report. By Nvidia standards, this is a B minus report type of thing. Market didn't really care about the miss here. They didn't really care about the lukewarm guidance. They looked past that, and they looked to kind of the secondary conversations that Jensen was having during the conference call, where he's talking about the trillion-dollar business of automation and robotics and how the age of robotics is here. And so a lot of hype for future growth type narrative. And it does feel like we are embracing a little bit of the different cycle from the overall AI trade, which does seem to be going fairly well right now. When you're looking at the semiconductors in general, still hesitating underneath that resistance, try to get going, both in not necessarily Nvidia, but when you're looking at SMH, obviously staring down the barrel of that breakout channel. When you're looking at the NASDAQ itself on the NQ, tried to break out here today, still stuck in mud right there at that overall resistance level. When you get wicks above resistance channels, kind of tells you want to see a close above that. Good report out of Nvidia. Is it a good enough report to kickstart something more than what the market is currently doing? Probably not, but it was good enough here for today. Going to dial that in a little bit more with the pros in just a little bit of time. Moving on in the morning action here today, when you are looking at some of those other stories, OPEC's looking to do a little bit of a pump, increasing output on oil by 411,000 barrels. SALESFORCE has earnings, and SALESFORCE came in with lukewarm on the EPS revenue and guidance. Pretty good report though, beats everywhere. Market doesn't seem to love SALESFORCE, kind of out of popularity, I would say. SALESFORCE right now. Elf Beauty had a pretty decent report. They came in at beats on EPS, beats on the revenue side. Does not provide guidance, but out of Elf Beauty, they had a secondary announcement where they basically did an acquisition, $1 billion acquisition of Hailey Bieber's road brand. And so they did withhold guidance due to tariffs. They announced the acquisition of the Bieber brand, and then we have that overall beat environment. Let's take a look at crude oil. Let's take a look at CRM, and let's take a look at ELF as we conclude morning action here today. Crude oil still stuck in the reversal, kind of hovering right above that $60 support level. 50-period moving average obviously acting as resistance, with the overhead still at 64. That analysis really has not changed in the last week. That's kind of been the analysis over the last week. We really haven't seen that change. When you're looking at SALESFORCE post earnings here today, dealing with a little bit of a gap down situation. And SALESFORCE, like I said, they had a pretty decent report. Just out of favor here is SALESFORCE. And then when ELF reported here today, they got good love, and they are riding that 5 and that 9 EMA on a V-shaped recovery ever since Liberation Day. Not the announcement of Liberation Day, but ever since it has been alleviated, Elk Beauty's been on an absolute tear, up from $50 to $113. I would be putting this on a secondary pattern, no doubt about that, as it does look to be like a technical conversation. Short term has momentum. You're now coming into some really important overhead. Secondary patterns there are going to be very key. And that's it for the morning action here today. And if you're looking to become a pro member, this is a fantastic time to become one. Number one, you can always just sign up for a free trial of the Tackle Train Pro membership, test out all those goodies. And number two, if you're ready to become a pro member, you want to lock that down for an entire year, we have a great special going on our pro membership annual program. Become a member of this amazing community called Tackle Trading. We put the education and the application together. Hopefully everybody has a wonderful rest of your day.